good morning, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, and Disembodied Hands, Quindy, Wisdom, Justin, and John. Hello. And we're going to have a slight interruption, guys, in a few minutes, because we actually hired a house cleaner. Ooh. Unfortunately, the only time they had to adjust schedule, and the only time they could come is at 10. So for me, that's like 10 minutes from now. 15 minutes, 12 minutes. So we'll be a very small interruption at that point. I just have to tell them not to bug me in here and to clean everything else except the garage. And we'll be good. Yes. So a slight interruption, and I'll keep it very fast. I just had to make that call this morning and just decided to do it. So, and then you may hear some slight vacuuming, but hopefully you won't. They were originally scheduled for noon, but they had to schedule adjustment. That's cool. I get it. It happens. So, you know, whatever. As long as they're gonna scrub out my sink and my like bathroom, I'll deal. I'll like, okay, you need to adjust your schedule, sure. So yeah, and being too lazy to clean the entire house, like, you know, like it's seriously too lazy. Not really. More like I actually want to have some time off in the evenings and not spend all my time cleaning. But yes, so anyway, so that'll be a thing. So we'll get Kitty. We'll get Kitty's. I think I want to do the leather. I don't have any of Kitty's leather in now. Now he looks like his arms just don't exist. So yeah, I think I want leather. What am I going to use for leather? Not a light leather, that's for sure. Because we need contrast, guys. We need contrast. We have a lot of light color with all of that silvery metal on Kitty. He needs some darker color. But on the other hand, I probably wouldn't go black. And at this point, I need to ask myself, what's the back of that shield going to be? I can't really make it purple because we've got cloth right up against it. Normally, what I would do is do a wood grain on the back. So, hello, Thormel. Hello, everybody. But yes, so I have to kind of think about, like, if I'm going to do a wood grain, what color is my wood grain, and what do I want to do with that glove? And there's also leather straps on there. So we actually have three things we've got to figure out with the color composition here, is we have to figure out, what are we going to do, what kind of color are we going to do with the back of the shield, what are we going to do with the glove, and what are we going to do with the straps? Now, the straps I could see taking black. That would probably be the safest choice, rather than trying to do a whole bunch of different browns on here. You could also do them like a lighter leather, although they are right up against the scales here, some of the armor that we haven't finished yet. So a lighter leather isn't going to give us a lot of contrast there. Oh, also my allergies are almost like gone. Like, not bad. I'm not bad today. Unless something takes a turn for the worse, but I closed up the house, so fingers crossed here. David suggested it's COVID, but I don't know. I mean, if so, it's like the first time I've gotten COVID for the entire pandemic. My immune system has just been going, no. So if so, I'm impressed, COVID. You finally got past my defenses, but I feel great. I only have a runny nose, so no idea. Yeah, yesterday I was pretty miserable. So, okay, so if I go black with this, then I want to go kind of with a medium brown probably in here. And maybe a darker brown for the back. So maybe a shield brown for the leather, or even a ruddy leather. Ruddy leather would be okay. It gets a little bit close to like the kitty stripes on the tail, but that's all the way over there. So I don't think it'd be too bad. You know, if it is Curitico, I feel fine. Like, I mean, my immune system is too aggressive, if anything. So, I mean, David had corona ages ago and was coughing in my face, and I didn't get it. So, if so, I'm impressed with the new variant because it finally managed to get me. Or this could just be my allergies, which do act up on occasion if there's lots of crap in the air, and it's been exceedingly hot and dry. So I do react to dust and tree crap in the air, so it is entirely possible. We'll see. I'll do a test tonight just to see. Because I did also just travel, right? So I could have picked it up in the airport on the way back. So yeah, we'll see. But otherwise I feel fine. So I have good energy. So all right, so let's do that. In which case, if I'm going to go with something as dark as ruddy leather, although I will highlight it, But if I'm going to go something as dark as ruddy leather, then I probably need to go like start really, really dark with the wood of the back of the shield. Start with like walnut and bring it up. And I'll need to bring it up in a different direction, not use a reddish brown like this. And then I can go black with the straps. The black with the straps will look similar, but if I highlight the straps kind of with a bluish gray color, then it'll all come together pretty well. So let's try that. Let's try that. So actually I'm repeating dark, medium, dark is actually what I'm doing here. And I'm doing that on purpose. It might be too much. We'll see. If it puts too heavy of a dark shadow here and it like stands out too much, like sometimes it can do that. A big, heavy dark can sometimes be distracting on a figure. But I'm going to add a little bit of wood grain, so I am going to lighten it up. So I think I'll be able to mitigate that. But yeah. So let's get our colors laid out. And like I said, I'm waiting for a house cleaning service to come. I expect them in about 5 minutes. So when I hear the knock on the door, I'm going to have to go and deal with them for a couple minutes. You guys can take a coffee break or whatever you want, or continue to eat your lunches. I'll deal with them as quickly as I possibly can and be back. It's just like, this is just a week. Like my 50th birthday week is like, the one thing I'm happy about is that apparently I haven't had another part of me expire. Like, my warranty hasn't expired on yet another part of my body. I appear to be okay. Unlike my 30th birthday where I actually like hyperextended my knee, and my 40th where I lost my close-in vision, all my warranties expiring. Look out, guys, if you're younger. Look out. Your warranties will expire. Every decade, I swear, there's a warranty that goes out. Alrighty, so I'm going to start with just the walnut and the leather. They are very different if you look at them, but you definitely can see this is a darker color. It's not a lighter color. So I'm going to have to boost that. Now you can do this kind of thing where you use a couple of darker colors together next to each other, and the key then is to highlight them in very different directions, and to make sure that the lighter color does get significant highlights, so that you essentially boost it up a little bit lighter because you're using a lot of highlights. And that's how you get the contrast. Now, none of these things are incredibly important, right? Like the back of the shield and the glove really aren't like a huge part of the piece, although, because Kitty's kind of carrying his shield at rest, right? The back of the shield is cool and gives us a viewing angle on that side, which we might not otherwise have. And here, putting wood grain on this side of the shield actually does add more interest to this viewing angle. So it's actually not a bad tactic. And adding darker colors here also will draw attention to more of Kitty's profile. So that's the strategy behind what I'm doing here. And hello. Testing at the first sign of the sniffle. Oh my. Yeah, I'll test tonight. Like, it just feels like allergies. Like, it feels exactly like all the allergies I've ever had in my life. And I will be sneezing, or I will be, like, have a little bit of nose stuff going on this morning, but it's significantly better. I'm not at all congested, and I feel great. So, and I slept well. So, I don't know. Guys. I don't know. Hey, the good thing is you can still watch me, even if I did have coronavirus. Because, look, we're social distancing. So mixing up my ruddy leather and my... Now, I could have gone for oiled leather also, but I wanted more of a red tone than an orange tone. And that's because the orange tone would be probably a little too close to our orange kitty fur and would probably clash. So by going with more of a red tone, even though it's similar to the auburn shadow we used over here, I'm gambling that it will actually work with the kitty tones. Yeah, see? Yeah, I don't know. This feels like allergies. It just does. Like, even down to the point where it's much better today. Like, it's not disappeared, but it's like, it's still going to be a hot day. We had a big front come through yesterday, and usually barometric pressure really makes all my sinuses dump too. So, yeah, I don't know. Jury's out. I'll test because I'm curious. I'm curious whether I picked it up in the airport. Because that would have been a 3-day, right? 3 days since that, so. Oh, hey, pup date also, guys. Uh-oh, there's the knock. I knew it when I was about to do a pup date. So, hold on. hold on and stare at Kitty, and I will get the door. Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Morning. So I'm going to be working in here, and I'll close the door. You do not don't clean that room. This is the back of the house, so there's a bathroom there and a bathroom there.
Okay.
And then this is the guest bedroom, so it's easy. You can do that one.
Okay.
This is our hobby and craft room, so you can sweep the floor if you want, but otherwise don't touch anything.
Okay.
It's all fragile and stuff like that.
Okay. No worries.
But the bathroom can be done. And then the main room, just wiping down surfaces and floors mostly.
Yes.
And I can do my dishes. Or actually, I should do my dishes. Sorry, get them out of there. Because otherwise, you guys can't clean the sink, and I definitely want that. Hold on, let me get this out of your way. Put these in here for now. There. There we go.
Oh, thank you. 30
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah, no problem. Table.
Okay.
Just a quick clean on the little entertainment room. Most of the floor.
Okay. Most of the floor.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then we don't use that room too much. This is the garage, so you can ignore that. After I'll open up your van. Don't worry about it.
Okay. I'm going to start the master bedroom. It's okay?
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. And then I'll be working, my work will go for another hour or so. And then after that, we'll check in with you guys and see what you're doing.
Perfect. Thank you.
Super, no problem. Aha! All right, done. All right, guys, I'm back. I like the kitty, green users. I like the kitty. What a pup date tease. I know, right? Right? Yeah, so. Hey, Steph and Mac. I'm just catching up here. You test every week. Yeah, totally. And I hardly leave the house. So that's not true. I go outside to walk, right? But I'm outside. So I managed to not be COVIDed for all this time. All this time. What, 2.5 years now? Yeah. Yep. So pretty crazy. But yeah, so if you hear vacuums going, they're going to start on the other side of the house. So that's good. And that should take them a while. So it should be good. Oh yeah, pup date. Okay, so the x-ray is today, guys. The x-ray to figure out how many puppers are actually in Zammy is today. So mad, yeah. I know, right? The one time. I've managed to avoid it. Even flying, like we went to Adepticon, didn't catch a thing. But I just got back from Wisconsin. I think if it is, then I caught it on the plane. But it really just does feel like allergies. So I don't know. Ugh, tickly in the nose. But yeah, much better today, so. But I don't tend to even when I get a cold or whatever, it doesn't linger really with me. Usually one night of good sleep will kind of punch it in the jaw. All right, so pup day today when we get to, oh no, allergies. Steph and Mac, I never get sick. Understand that it has been over 5 years since I even had a cold. So I don't stress about getting sick. Like my immune system is really very good. If I do even in the past when I was getting sick once a year or something, I would get over it in a day. So I'm pretty not stressed about that. Thanks for the sentiments though. So pup date, we do find out x-ray today, so we will find out a head count. They will give us a little x-ray of, and we will get to count puppy heads, puppy skulls. And the puppies should arrive in 5 days. We're down to only 5 days, guys, till the puppies arrive. Their due date is technically the 28th, but it can vary by 12 hours or 24 hours either way. So we will at least find out how many puppies they are. Oh, nice, Vistamp. Yeah, everybody, they did masking at our con, our local con too. Kubla Khan was all masked. But yeah, and we didn't emerge from any. There were people who got COVID at Kubla, but we didn't. Yeah, when you teach in school, yeah, that's it. We always used to blame Ron. This is, I think, how we got into the habit of blaming Ron Hawkins for everything. Is that he was the only one with kids in school, and so whenever a plague hit Reaper, it was always like Ron was patient zero, or he brought it over from his kids. Now, things like the edge of the shield here, guys, you've got a choice. You can either make it the same color as the front of the shield. Oh, I need to get in focus here. There we are. So you can either make it the same color as the front of the shield, or you can just do it dark. And it's up to you what you think is going to look better. I tend to do it, I don't know, it really depends on the shield and how dark everything is. But I think I'll do it, and it also depends. Okay, so the other thing it's going to depend on, which we just realized. We have purple right up against this shield, right? So if I wanted to make it purple, I've been thwarted already. Except that we could do a cool thing, and I just got this idea, and I'm totally going to do it. But we have to think about it. So we could bisect the shield. We can make half of the shield one color and half the shield the other color. So I think what I'd almost prefer to do is to make half the shield black, the part that's toward the cape, and then make the part that's away from the cape purple, and then do the ball of yarn in orange. What do you guys think about that? Yeah, I mean, all I have is sniffles, but yeah, I think almost everybody's had it at this point, right? It's everywhere. I just there we go. I'm just glad that everybody's like, all you guys are safe and healthy and able to watch my stream. That's what I'm happy about. But yeah, so I think bisecting the shield, and that's the answer if you've got something like this, because you know how we like to alternate colors, right? So I would like to make the ball of yarn something bright. So if I was going with, say, purple and orange shield, I'd have to make it like white. I don't think I want to do that even with all the light armor. I could do that. But the white wouldn't allow me to really bring out a lot of details here, where I think that if I do it in orange, I can really bring out the details of the ball of yarn. So I think that I do want to do half of it in black, half of it in purple, and then we'll make the ball of yarn orange, and that should be fun. Yeah, we could also do like if we didn't have the cape to worry about, we could do like a chevron instead, which is always pretty cool looking. But because we have to not put purple up against purple, ideally, then I think that's the best option. Oh, all my yarn colors are cool colors, Kuriko, because of my eyes, I wear a lot of gray blue. So I do a lot of soft heathery blues because they just look great on me. So my new yarn and my other new yarn is like kind of a dark like blue and purple and green shifting one that I really love. So, and I do have a kind of a soft like grayed out lavender color too, but that wouldn't that wouldn't work. I do not wear orange with one exception. I do have a really fancy Renaissance fair gown, really fancy, like super super duper fancy. Like Victorian like, hunting gown kind of habit like fancy, and it is orange gold and brown, but I look good in that. That's the only thing I've ever owned that had any shift of orange that I look good in. Yeah, I tend to go. You guys may have noticed I tend to go heraldic anyway. I like to put metals to instead of putting a color next to each other. I actually prefer to do like a gold border and alternate with silver and color and gold and color. Like you'll notice I do that, and it's totally from heraldry, and it's because I really think it does help to separate the colors out and make them look better. So, all right, I'm just gonna use my walnut for black, and you guys can do this. Like I was just writing a PDF yesterday for one of my coaching people, and you don't have to use black for black. I mean, Wapple has done a thing on this too, and I'm sure almost everybody has, but just you can just use a dark color. If there's no other pure big block of pure black on the model, then the walnut or blue liner or nightmare black or whatever you're going to use, nightshade purple, is going to look black anyway because it's so close to it. And if you've got no pure black to directly have a point of comparison, it will successfully carry as black. So if I use walnut here, it's gonna look black. I just have a scarf yarn. Like it's pretty much like scarves are easy. Scarves are easy until I get like, I don't know that I would want to like try to make something clothes other than a scarf, because a scarf can be a little clunky and nobody cares as long as it's warm and nice. In fact, I think a kind of a clunky and wonky scarf is kind of charming in a way. But I wouldn't want to like knit myself a tank top or anything. I'm now nowhere near. Like my mom is a pro. I should have taken a picture. She's in the process of like making a caftan, I think. She kind of put it down because it's a lot of work, but boy, like that woman, like it's pretty beautiful. But she's, and I realized, actually, I found this out. I asked her if grandma taught her to knit, and she actually taught herself to knit in college, my mom. So that would have been back in like the 60s. But grandma actually didn't knit. She was actually a town girl. I had never known that because mom grew up on a farm because grandpa was from farming roots. And so when grandma married him, she actually left her town upbringing and went to a farm in the middle of nowhere with no running water, no electricity. Like imagine this, guys. Imagine the culture shock here. And that would have been back in the 40s, I think. So during the war, World War II. So there was, and grandma actually worked later on after the kids were grown. She worked in the hospital as a nurse's aide. So she was a very, like, my grandma was very interesting. But yeah, I had never known that about her, that she had given up like her comfortable town life to move out into the middle of nowhere to a place with no electricity and no running water to do animals, like to raise animals and to raise a family. Like to go from that, like how do you even, right? How do you even, like you've got a pump that you have to pump to bring water up from the well. Like nothing. It's just insane. By the time the kids were of any age, I know they had electricity. But that old house, it wasn't the same one that I knew them in. They had to move to a different place, but they were in Portage, Wisconsin. And it was really like kind of one of those funky like farm family upbringing stories. Like mom has all sorts of farm stories. Like at one point they had a pet fox because grandpa was plowing the neighbor's field and turned up a fox den, and the mother had abandoned the pups, so they actually kept one and raised it, Freddie the fox. Freddie eventually kind of left and went to do his own thing, but they actually raised a fox pup. Which is probably why I have this like fascination with foxes from an early age, all the stories that mom used to have. Yeah, scarves are good, and you're right, they do make great presents. Because you can always use a new scarf, especially a really soft, fuzzy, warm one. It's like a handmade thing that you can actually make that people will actually thank you for. And you don't have to worry about sizes. But yeah, so that's my mom's side of the family is very rural. And it's kind of funny because I feel like maybe a third of the kids went grandma's way and the rest went like grandpa's way. Where, I mean, only one of them is like in the farming, like he's not really in the farming business, but he works like with animal feed and stuff like that. He works for that sort of business. But like a couple of them, like mom was the first one in the family to go to college, and there were 4 kids before her. So mom ended up moving more toward the like rural, like urban, more town life, thing, because we grew up that way. All right, so nice line down the middle. Now, it's important to say, guys, since since this isn't a perfect shield, because it's, it's and any, shield, it's got like a very organic shape in the middle here with the ball of yarn. You don't have to be perfect with this. If this side is a little bit bigger, like, it's really not going to matter. You want to kind of eyeball the top of the shield, just kind of look corner to corner. And usually you want to start just like with a rough dash up here or a dot. And then you just kind of want to follow it down. And if this wouldn't line up perfectly with that, just don't worry about it, because you've got this shape in here to disrupt it. And this is why I say that when you do freehand on shields, you actually it helps you hide any imperfections. So if you're doing like a chevron shape, or you're doing a straight line down the middle, putting a freehand something in the middle, even if it's just a ball or just any old simple shape, like, any of the heraldic things, even a very simple, even like a diamond, it'll disrupt the eye enough that the eye won't pick up on any imperfections in your stripe, unless they're glaring, right? So keep that in mind. I'm gonna get my purple out. So I've got that, and you can see that comes up there. It also puts a nice barrier here between the purple and the shield. Got some scrunched up cloth in there. We'll do the purple on this side, and then we'll go in and do the leather. Hey, New Code, thank you. 31 months. Thanks for the resub. Sorry, I got all distracted. Distracted Anne today. I really am a squirrel brain today, in a weird kind of way. It's a weird kind of squirrel day. Oh, I should tell you my baby possum story. Last night, a baby possum almost walked into my foot. I was rather alarmed because it was dim. It was like twilight out, which is, of course, baby possum time. And I was out on our back porch because we just put in our furniture, right? And we just got an umbrella, and like, it was a really beautiful sunset last night. So I went outside and it was nice out because it was like probably 76. So it was actually beautiful in the evening. And I catch movement because I'm just reading on my phone. So I'm holding really still. And I see movement out of the corner of my eye, and I look over, and right here, like really about just waddling toward my foot, just totally unconcerned, is a baby possum. And I will admit that my first thought was like, oh my God, please not a skunk, right? Because they've both got that pointy little face, and it was dim. So part of my brain realized at that point suddenly that it was a possum, and the first thing that comes out of my mouth is whoa, baby possum, whoa. Baby possum, I swear to God, it stopped. Like, you saw it stop. And it looked at me, and it was like, oh. We both kind of did a double take, and it turned around and waddled very quickly back in the opposite direction. Oh my God. It was, yeah, I think it had just gotten into our yard, and it was trying to figure out how it was going to get out of our yard. It was pretty adorable, but it was really just funny. So then I fled from the possum. I went back inside, just to give him or her room, and told David my story, and David's laughing his ass off at me because I just ran away from a baby possum. And then I went out into our main room, and I saw the baby possum waddling past the screen door there. And I'm like, okay, baby possum tried to get out that way and didn't find a way. So after he or she went that way, I went and opened up the front gate just in case, they would have a way out of the yard. But by the time I got back to David, the baby possum had figured out a way to use our hedges to climb to the top bar of our fence, and so it had gotten back into the neighbor's yard. Our back fence neighbor, has a huge yard that pretty much spans at least 2 full yards of ours, because they're on a corner lot. So, and they've got a ton of vegetation and trees and plant life out there. So I'm pretty sure that's baby possum, like, freedom land. Oh, good. Yeah, if they eat ticks, they are welcome. But yeah, baby possum was about so big. And I know possums can get big, so I knew it was a baby possum. It was a young possum. But yeah, so I just saw him or her waddle across the top bar of the fence, and then since the fence boards alternate back there, they can get back into that yard. Oh, that's really funny, Quindy. Yes, it's always startling because we're in the middle of freaking Silicon Valley. So it's always so startling to see wildlife. But, we invaded their domain, so they're just invading us back, really. At this point, I would not be surprised to see a coyote. Like, honest to God. I know that, and I really wouldn't be surprised to see raccoons. Although there's not that many trees, like, close together, and raccoons do like to climb. But yeah, so we had possums. And I knew that we had skunks because I smell one every once in a while. So I knew there was a skunk. I know there's a skunk around here somewhere. Man, if that had been a skunk, I would be so sad. Because that skunk would have turned around and sprayed, and I would be done. Dave would be like, "You are not sleeping in the house tonight. Here, have a sleeping bag. Go out back. We'll pitch a tent." Oh, interesting. Well, that's good, because that was my first concern, Kerniko, right? Growing up in like semi-country, because I grew up in a pretty small town, pretty rural. And if an animal walked into you in the middle of summer, like, you were thinking rabies. But that's interesting that they don't succumb to it. Yeah, I mean, we're in the middle of Silicon Valley. This is a very it doesn't have, like, it's not like we're super urban. Like, the taller buildings are downtown. So out here we just, like, have tract after tract of housing, right? But there are also a lot of small parks, and a lot of the yards have a lot of trees and stuff. And I suppose there are, like, fountains and other things that, like, wildlife... I mean, that's why I got it. Part of why I got a fountain was that I figured the animals might like it. Squirrels are sassy. We have black squirrels and gray squirrels here. Yeah, we have hawks. Yeah, it just startled me. Like, possums are one of those things that I would expect to see in, like, my old town, where we were a very small town surrounded by farmland and forest, right? But here, I'm just surrounded by tech companies. Who knew that tech companies are wilderness as far as animals are concerned? Oh yeah, animals adapt for sure. I mean, I would regularly. There were a couple of times when I was driving to Reaper, just down the Denton, just down the road there, Swisher, and I saw a coyote just standing bold as brass on the side of the road. And somebody else, one of our other Reaper people, had, like, pictures of a bobcat in their backyard. Of course, Reaper itself being right on the edge of hiking trails and woodland down to the river means that we got wildlife incursions every once in a while. So I'm going to just go, and I've thinned down the paint here. I don't mind doing a couple of different layers. I'm going to switch to a smaller brush with a better point when I get close up to the demarcation line here. But if I go over it, if I fudge my line, it's not a big deal because my walnut covers so well that I'm going to easily be able to pick up and cover over any purple. And if I cover over my yarn here, it's not a big deal because I can just take some white and recover it. Wild goatman, yes. Yep. Oh, raccoons drunk on sugar. That's why see, that's the one thing that makes me think we don't have coons. Because if we had coons, we would see so much more dumpster, like, trash can knocking over and invasion, right? Especially because everybody's got compost here. And so it's like it would be a smorgasbord for raccoons because of big compost bins. They would be in those things. You can't tell me they wouldn't. And yet I haven't really heard anything or seen anything around us to indicate that coons are here. So maybe we have possums and skunks, but no coons. Oh yeah, you've got all sorts of stuff. We don't have deer. I'm sure of that. There's not enough vegetation to sustain them. A lot of people have desert planted, because we're very drought climate, very arid. So a lot of people have their yards planted out with more desert vegetation or landscaped with a lot of stone and stuff. So there isn't a lot of grass or other like forage vegetation. There are deer. You go a bit south, you go to Monterey, everybody's got deer in their backyard. Like we just see them. Like there's a bunch of scrub forest all along the coast there. And we've run into a deer in the parking lot of our hotel when we're down there. So there isn't a lot of, because I'm using Imperial, there isn't a lot of demarcation here. You can see there's a line, but it's not real visible. So what I will have to do is I will have to slightly highlight along that purple line just to make sure that there's a lot of contrast between the black side and the purple side. Yeah, no mountain lions here. Oh, they live in the sewers in the Bay Area? Thanks, Redlings. This is Tiny Brush. Yeah, I just decided to do this line here with Tiny Brush. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have mountain lions up. Los Gatos is named after the mountain lions. Dad remembers when he was out here where they would go camping. Like him and his Navy pals would have like drinking parties up in what became, what was Los Gatos then was just like a couple of farms. But Los Gatos is named for the mountain lions. So we know there are lions like 20 minutes, 25 minutes that way. Probably still are because that's a lot of redwood territory up there, a lot of parkland, a lot of national forest land. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense, Quindy. Deer like twilight anyway. They like the evening and night. All right, I missed a spot down here. We've got some white. We don't want that, so let's use Tiny Brush to get into those little cracks. Excellent. All right, checking to see if there's anywhere else. I do want... There's some other areas like here underneath the arm where I just want to block in. It's implied there might be something like else like cloth under this arm, but there's not a lot of room to suggest it, so I'm just going to paint it dark. And if there's ever some little thing like this, and I think I brought it up yesterday as well, but if there's some tiny area that's probably another piece of shirt or something, and you really can't make it out, and you're already using like a dark color on the model, just paint it in dark. Don't try to come up with a color for it. Just put the shadow in there, especially if you can only see it like underneath stuff. It's totally fair. Coyote warning, yeah. Oh no, Pendrake, that's terrible. Raccoons in the attic is the worst. I was just talking to somebody at my niece's graduation party who had that problem, and they had to like come in and trap them and move them, and then they had to really, really seal the attic to make sure Mama didn't come back and decide to have babies there again. And she kept hearing them. It was funny because she kept hearing them, and she was like, "Those are big squirrels." Oh dear. All right, so we've got our dark color blocked in now, roughly, although I can see a couple of touch-up areas where I could go a little bit better, a little bit more solid. I do hear a vacuum now, so if it gets loud, just let me know, Quindy. But hopefully, I mean, shouldn't be too much. We don't have a crazy bad floor, so. All right, let us do the glove. Let's see if our leather color is gonna go. Let's see if it's gonna work. Yeah, I think that's going to work. Like, it shows up well against the backdrop here. So, over the white primer especially, if you were doing this over black primer, then I would actually put a white undercoat under this ruddy leather before you put it down. Over black primer, walnut and ruddy leather would start to draw closer together because you will always get a darker color when you're working over a black primer. So be aware of that. And if you need a couple of dark colors to work together but to be noticeably different so that they stand out, consider putting down white under the lighter of the two. I know it's an extra step, but if you are worried about contrast, that's kind of something you can do to help it. Now, if you want it all to be very dark, like you're painting a rogue, you can go with this, and then you have to use highlights to differentiate. You have to see, because it says hard to see somewhere, but the hand is showing up okay. So I think we're going to be okay, especially after highlights. You have squirrels, yeah. Oh no, Cornico. Yes, seeing cute animals is not supposed to make you fail your dexterity rolls. All right, I'm going to actually ignore the straps over here. There are straps, like, binding the plates here to the arm. But I'm going to ignore that. And I'm actually going to come down and, because we have a regular leather glove here, I think I'm going to just do glove here. So even though originally I was thinking maybe I would do metal there. I think I want to make it consistent. Get back there. Yeah, it's a cute kitty. You should definitely paint this kitty. This kitty needs more people to buy it because we need more Catfolk. If Catfolk starts selling like crazy, then Reaper's going to make more Catfolk, guys. Seriously. You know Reaper. Yeah, there we go. And then there's really not a lot of hilt showing here. So I'm just going to block it in with the liner with walnut. Because I'd be lining around this area anyway. So I'm just going to put a dark shadow in here. There we go. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, now that we've got that on there. And the leather is different enough from the fur that it's not clashing. It's dark enough. As I bring it up, then we're going to be more in danger. But one way we could work with this, guys, just for your reference, is we could use the same oranges that we used on the fur to highlight the leather. And then what it would come down to is we'd be trying not to clash, but instead to repeat the color around the model. So if we use, say, I probably wouldn't go up to explosion orange like we did on this kitty, but we used a 9201, which is orange brown. So if we highlight this leather with orange brown, which is a really good choice for ruddy leather, we have a chance that it won't clash, but instead it'll just read as another point of orange. And you can try it and see. Really where you get into trouble with clashing colors, though, is usually when you're using colors that are close, but they're not the same. So if I wanted to use something like burnt orange, which is a much lighter orange, much less saturated, and I wanted to paint something that color, it would likely clash with the existing orange because it would be more muted and it would be a different color. But if I take a color that's in the fur and use it to highlight my leather, hypothetically I should get away with it because it's the same color, so it's not going to clash because it's the same color. So we'll see. Sure, Rainbow. Very nice, lady. Wearing purple and orange Kodiak, awesome. She just runs and climbs things and then falls off. Yeah, it sounds like a barbarian to me. I'll have to decide what character class my new puppy is. If Bridget has her way, she's gonna name name these puppies, their call names, they're going to be named after Critical Role characters, so I would be within my rights to to decide what character class. Kiri was a rogue, by the way. And Thorn was a barbarian or a wild mage. I can't decide which. Blazy was just a princess. She would probably have been a court mage. So she could wear fancy collars and prance around and be generally horrified at the gaucheness of life. And Blazy was funny. Funny dog. Dogs are so different from each other. Each one of my dogs was very different from each of the others. So I expect this puppy will be her own self. I think Leo was a paladin. He was just kind of a big goofy do-gooder. He was always horrified if he did anything wrong. Which is suitable because his, I believe his dark sword model is a warrior or paladin. So that works. All right. Now I'm rethinking, though, guys. I'm really rethinking what I want to do with these straps because so much is dark here. There's so much dark. Even though I know that this is going to come back up, I might leave those straps light just to, like, kind of, like, I might end up doing the wood grain and the glove highlighting and then making the call because right now this is so dark that using black on these straps would be a terrible idea. And as I look at it, I'm like, well, if I do a light, like a leather brown highlighted with some like amber gold or something, if I do a light leather here, chances are it's going to just kind of balance out okay because it is light and so much of this is light. I did use Osirian sand in the fur, so maybe I use Osirian sand to highlight like a leather brown and do it that way. I do want to put a little bit of gold on this character too, so that might also work if I use a color that is very close to some tones of the NMM. I might be able to make it harmonize that way. This is where you get into the hard part where you're just like, there's this one area that you have to paint, and it doesn't make sense to use any of the other colors on the model for it. So it doesn't, like, orange would be the choice, but who would have orange leather straps on their shield? I mean, yeah, I could, but it's very unlikely. Oh, was there? Yeah, that's right, because they had Westminster. Westminster was actually on. They switched it to summer because of COVID, so they could have it outdoors. So that's interesting. Today's Bloodhounds are pretty nice dogs. Like, as far as temperament goes, a well-bred Bloodhound is just kind of a joy. But you have to be able to deal with the drool, and that's just not my thing. Those flues mean they're very sloppy drinkers, and they do drool. But they're sweethearts. I met a champion Bloodhound at a dog seminar once, and just a really nice dog, honestly. Yeah, this kitty does not have much fur. We could not do facial markings, really, except for the lighter eyes and the mouth and the stripy tail. But the stripy tail gives you enough that you know it's a tabby, right? You know it's an orange tabby, so... Yeah, I'm sad I missed it. I normally sit and watch, but I had forgotten. Even though my sister-in-law, her brother shows and actually has had dogs at Westminster. Norwich Terriers is his breed. He also does professional photography for dog show folks, so he's kind of cool. Like, one of these days, he didn't make it to the party because of Westminster and commitments, but one of these days I have to meet him because we're both like dog people. Like, I have dog people in my family I haven't met. Something's wrong here. Even though I'm not a terrier person. I should have him, I should bring him out for a photo shoot of the new pupper. If the new pupper is photogenic and likes cameras. Hey, Roger, thanks for the Thanks for the resub. 22 months. Excellent. I want to see a nice herding dog win. It's been a while since when was the last time a herding dog won? I'd have to look it up on the wiki. I am a herding dog person. I always root for my favorite breeds, but mostly they're not picked. Yep, Norwich Terriers. He's had dogs though. His dogs seem pretty nice. Like he had a dog 5 or 6 years ago. His dog actually won best of breed, and he was actually in the group competition. He got to show his own dog in a group at Westminster Dog Show, which is pretty. If you're a dog show nerd, like that's like what you aspire. You aspire to be there. Not a lot of owners handle their own dogs because you want to really hand it off to a professional to show your dog to the best. But he's an owner handler, so it's pretty cool. No. Alrighty, I think I missed a spot here. I think that needs to be purple. So this is like me taking walnut and just like going around. I lined around that loincloth, so now it's a lot crisper. You can see it stands out. Everything is lining, guys. Lining and like the highlight next to the lining is what makes things like really get crisp on your model. If you want that crisp, clean look that so many pros achieve, that's the key, is the subtle, the understated use of lining. Just a little tiny dark line right up that leg, and it makes everything stand out so much better. But that's what brings out these tiny details. This is what you need to consider. You can also just do dark shading. It'll work the same way, but you need to have that dark next to the light. You need to have that contrast there. That's why we talk about. That's why we harangue you guys about contrast all the time. Because you got to have the contrast, or you're just not gonna get that crisp, clean look. Let's see here. I want... What do I want next? I want some white, actually. I want to go back over these little bands so I don't forget them. Best in show is surreal, I know, right? Yeah, thanks, Dogfather. It's not quite where I want it to be yet, truth be told. It's getting there. It's getting there. As the rest of the model comes together, I will see where I need to accentuate. And this is where, you just start filling in the gaps on the mini so that you can get a better idea of how everything else looks. Because at first, like, the model, the contrast wasn't showing strong enough. And now I still feel like I need more dark contrast on some of these. Like, the leg's pretty good, the chest's pretty good, but I need to accentuate some more darks in here without losing that light, silvery, shiny look that he's got. So doing this light of a silver when you're trying to keep things really shiny bright, like Paladins, this is a little more challenging than doing just standard NMM, where you can take it quite dark and, you're fine. But maybe with, if your concept is a very goody two-shoes and you want to keep that armor like a really sky metal kind of look, then like magical shiny do-gooder armor, then it's a little more challenging because you have to be very, very gentle in building up your darks and you need enough contrast for it to look shiny, but you never want to overdo the amount of contrast or the amount of shading, because then everything's going to go much darker all of a sudden and you won't have your shiny bright Paladin. So this is one of the harder NMMs to do, and a lot of people would do it just black and white. You'll see the Europeans do it where it's just black and white NMM, because they don't want a lot of transition. They want to keep a lot of light in it, and it looks very, very shiny when they do it. So that's another way to do it. I don't like the black and white NMM thing. I do like a little bit of color in my metals, so that's why this is kind of my compromise, where I'm using a very pale blue-gray, and then a lot of white and dark gray. I do a couple of coaching levels on my Patreon, Dogfather, but I'm veering away from that. I'm realizing that I don't enjoy it as much as I enjoy a lot of the other stuff I do. And it takes a lot of time, too. I feel like if I'm going to do it, I need to charge a lot more, but if I don't, like, really enjoy it, I would much rather be teaching, like, on stream like this, or teaching a group of people. I get more from that. And it could be the pressure. Like, one-on-one is a lot of pressure for an instructor. Because if you're in a class, usually 1 or 2 people are going to respond to your teaching style, right? At least 1 or 2. And so they're really going to get, some people in the class are going to get a lot out of it. So even if you have a couple of people who just really don't resonate with your teaching style and are kind of dissatisfied or don't have a lot that they get out of it, you know, you've still got the people who did. So you still feel like you did an okay job. When you've got that one-on-one variety of thing, you have it's a lot of pressure, both for the student and for the instructor. And it also is a lot of homework for the student if it's not a monthly cycle kind of thing. So I just feel like it's not an ideal, for me, it's not an ideal teaching format. There is my painting big. That said, I do have kind of an open invite to anybody on my Patreon if you do want like a one-off coaching, like a one-off PDF on a topic, like you're working on a piece for ReaperCon and you really want it kind of critiqued and stuff. I will do those, and it's just private payment. You just don't do it through the Patreon. But that's open to my patrons, and that's patreon.com/paintingbig. I do like doing it a bit more in a PDF format because I feel like I'm better at conveying ideas in a PDF a lot of the time if it's like working on a particular model. And I like the student to have a written account of what I'm saying. I think it's valuable. Then you can make a checklist off of it. There we go. So a little bit more white since I mixed it up to bring up the backs of those plates and get a little more contrast. But yeah, it's interesting because I love to teach. I love to try to translate ideas to people to make the light bulb go on, but at the same time, I don't enjoy doing it one-on-one. I'm going to bring in a little bit more of a line here to separate out these plates, a little sharper on the foot there. So then they start to really stand out. Same over here, we got a little muddy. So around this time, when I'm starting to fill other things in, it's also when I'm starting to tighten areas on the figure. Some people really like to do one-on-one coaching, I know. Lovejoy, Matt DiPietro. There are a few people out there that I've heard are good mentors. I much prefer a more informal basis, though. And I feel like, I often feel like you get more just kind of like talking to a lot of different people. I mean, there are definitely people who I feel like I have helped a lot at, like, who used to come and be paint club regulars, for example. And I kind of enjoyed that format. It's like, there's no pressure there. You're just a paint club. Somebody comes up and asks you for feedback. You give them feedback. You give them, like, maybe a little demo, or you explain the next thing that you feel like they should work on, and then they're happy and they go and they execute, right? But I like that a little bit better. Yeah, good, Lady Katara. Yeah, that's smart, lady. That's really smart. Like, the better you understand, like, highlights and shadow placement, the easier NMM will be for you to learn. Just flat out. So that's actually a very smart approach. A lot of people just kind of dive in and they think they'll learn lighting when they learn NMM, and that's kind of the way that I ended up doing it, just because I was like using the basic highlighting style and then I was trying to learn NMM, and it was hard. It made it harder for me. I think if I would have known somebody like David who really concentrated on studying the way that light falls naturally, I think I would have progressed far faster on NMM, because I would have had a good foundation for the thinking. But doing it the backwards way, I think, cost me a lot of time and effort and also frustration. It's a ball of yarn, Pendrake. We're going to do it in orange. And I'll probably actually wait to do that and do the highlights on the gloves at the same time, I think. I think that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, the paint-alongs, I will admit that what you should do, lady. Did you do the first paint-along, the Dragon Folk? Because I will admit that the paint-alongs do increase in difficulty. Like, and I probably need to post something to that effect. If you are just starting out, the Tara paint-along is not easy for you. When I did that paint along, I was working with a lot of people who had, they'd all gone through and did. A lot of people actually painted the Dragon Folk, the Dragonkin Rogue. And I'll tell you, that's much easier with the NMM. Like, that is a much simpler subject. Yeah, you probably, if I were you, because that's got very simplified NMM. Because he's only just got a couple of touches of it. He's mostly in leather armor. So he's just got his sword and some accents. And that might be an easier way to tackle it. Okay. Okay, cool. I'm glad the rest of it was accessible. I worry a little bit sometimes because I definitely have, like, the first paint along is I think the most valuable in a lot of ways. It sets you up. And I didn't assume anything on that one. I was assuming people were anywhere from beginners to intermediate and beyond. And so I kept things pretty simplified on that Dragonkin. And I feel like it's a good foundational piece. But the Tara, I got a little bit wonkier with it. Like, well, you can just get pretty crazy with the skin, right? And then we're, with the new paint-alongs, do the Marika one, probably. There is going to be some NMM on that, because she's got metal armor, but it's at least 28 millimeter. The bust is going to be pretty advanced, I think. I like having a selection, because that way there's no matter who you are taking that level, there's something you can use, right? So I definitely wanted to make a variance as far as easy or harder topics on the Patreon paint-along. So that was strategic, but yeah, I feel kind of bad that you got dumped into the Tara one. Larger models in general are going to be a little more difficult in some ways. Although it did give you a background with textures, so and if you enjoyed that, then awesome. I don't remember if there's a volcano brown one. I did. Oh man. There is like dark elf skin tones where I talk about how to mix dusky skin, I think. But I mean, really, the closest color Mobrock to Volcano Brown, and it's really close actually, is Nut Brown. Bones. Nut Brown. Just add a little white, you get pretty much Volcano. Or an off-white like Osirian Sand, or any yellowish off-white would probably be a little better than with the blue. Good, I'm glad, lady. But Nut Brown is, Volcano Brown is a purplish brown, and so is Nut Brown. Nut Brown is just a bit darker. So nut brown, you could add a little walnut to build a shadow. Add a little bit of a like linen white or Osirian sand or white to get a close match for volcano, and then you could continue adding white for highlights. Well, I think ashen brown exists again, so ashen brown is the highlight for volcano. I think I've said that about the nut brown and volcano brown before on a different stream or in something, but it's been 3.5 years of Patreon content at this point. I can't remember, and even longer of streaming for Reaper. I don't think though that I did a lot. That I did a PDF directly on how to mix discontinued colors, because I probably would be more likely to do a, hey, if you don't have this color, this is a close equivalent. Because there's still like a proprietary level to Reaper's formulations. So teaching you guys how to mix even canceled colors is kind of on the line there, and I don't know that I would do it. I can give you like generalizations. Like I said, like add a little bit of an off-white to nut brown, and you'll probably get close to volcano. But I wouldn't be able to give you like real precise instructions, because that would impinge on formula knowledge. It's a fine line. It's a fine line. Mixing just a little bit of white in here to kind of test out, get a little bit more of a solid top here, so you can see the demarcation a lot easier if you add just a tiny bit of white. So I'm gonna actually bring that in. You can see that demarcation a lot better now. Just kind of blend it into the rest of the shield. There, now we can see a lot sharper. I'm just going to buff in a little bit more of that. You can see it a little bit rough. That's okay. It doesn't matter if it's rough. Alrighty. Pretty good. Let's put a little bit more of a solid line down the side here. And I can go, I don't want to go too late. I actually need to run to the store. I wasn't expecting our housekeepers so early, and I need to go get their tip. So I actually need to go and get some cash. So I can't go too late today, but I can go a little longer tomorrow to make up for the late start of the wonky internet. And tomorrow I will have puppy news, guys. I will have head count puppy news, because the x-ray will be around 4 p.m. Central today. Alrighty. I wanted to highlight that bit of cloth there. No, actually, likely not Pendrake, actually, because that's true of every color. There are so many colors that are popular that are so easy to mix, like easy. The more commonly cited reason when I've talked to people at Paint Club or whatever and said, well, why don't you use this color, is because people don't know how to use muted colors very well. They naturally reach for bright, strong colors. They feel like they understand how to use those better. But when you've got one of those weird colors that's like a purplish brown or a grayish green or a brownish blue, like those colors aren't as popular. People don't understand how to utilize them, right? Like they try a muted color and it looks bad with their bright colors, and so they just like kind of shy away from them, and they don't really they feel a little bit more out of their depth, because some of those colors, like Volcano Brown, yeah, it has a hint of purple in it, but it's also a brown. So how do you use that? What do you use it with, right? And some of those colors, you really have to plan around if you're going to use them. Like khaki. Khaki can get you into so much trouble. Like, seriously. Because it's a grayish, tan-ish, yellowish color, and it has a little bit of green to it. So it's actually really hard to implement a good color scheme with khaki. I've had success with it exactly once, and that's me. So it can be very difficult to use some of those muted colors, and that's why people shy away from them. So yeah, that is the problem with muted colors. Maybe at some point I'll have to pull out a khaki and I'll show you guys kind of the perils of khaki. Khaki and other muted colors. We haven't done a super muted color scheme since the Crimson Herald, and that one we were using a power palette, so fast palette, sorry. A little bit of additional highlight here, just kind of touching up my purple at this point, tightening it up a little bit. If you want the cloth to be a little bit more sheer or shiny, then add these sharper highlights. It will naturally make the cloth appear a little bit more so. All right, let us... Where is my shield brown? Yes, I use shield brown for shields. I'll admit it, I'm not terribly creative there. Oh, there's the vacuum. Oh well, we're almost to the end of the stream. I'm just going to block in rough wood grain. Now, if I wanted this wood grain to come up really light on the back of this shield, I would underpaint with white. Absolutely. But I don't mind it starting a bit darker than it looks. So I'm going to thin down my shield brown. And putting it over this dark color will mean that it doesn't show up nearly as boldly. And pretty much I tend to just use do a vertical board. The great thing about wood grain is that you do not need to be precise with it. Like, you just need to get kind of these rough shapes in there that kind of look like parallel boards. And if the edges are wobbly, that's actually helps the verisimilitude. So I'm just going to dash these in a bit. I'm going to leave a lot of little gaps and pictures. Yeah, I'll go a little over because I started late because of technical issues, but we'll try to make up a little bit more time tomorrow. I want to run over and do a quick errand before my maids leave. So again, using just a long series of dashes here, leaving some gaps. You don't have to be real intentional about the gaps either, though you will want to fill them in. This is just blocking in, but then as you move more into wood grain, you thin these dark lines down. So you start with big gappy lines, right, where you're like, wow, that shield is like full of holes. And then you start bringing your brown in tighter and tighter, and you just thin that line down so that you're not actually drawing thin lines between boards, because that's actually very hard. But doing this way is much easier. So then you can really quick sets up a very, very fast wood grain. And a lot of people will be happy just with that, honestly. Okay, good, Quindy. That's fantastic. Glad the mic is doing its job. Very happy about that. Alrighty, but yeah, I'm gonna call this actually pretty much now. Anybody have any more questions real quick before we do? And then I'll just go a little bit long tomorrow. There we are. So there's our kind of blocked in wood grain. It's very, very choppy. That's all right. We'll clean it up a bit as we go. So what we did today, we did some touch-ups and some tightening on the metal. We filled in, we figured out, talked about color composition as regards the gloves and the shield and everything like that. We started blocking in our wood grain just now. We set up our bisected color pattern on the shield and made it a little bit stronger so we could see that line. We're going to go orange with the arm ball, but I didn't want to mix up a bunch of orange just for like 10 minutes of work today, so we'll just work on that next time we're back on Kitty. But Kitty's starting to come together now, where we haven't literally done the sword yet, and I was kind of waiting. I was kind of wanting to figure out if I wanted to do kind of a magical effect on the sword or not. I might add some color to the end of the sword if I think I can get away with it or something like that. Yes, so come back at 2 p.m. for the Crafty Creative with Josh. I hope you all are having a wonderful day. And remember, tomorrow, pup date, number of puppies pup date is going to be on tomorrow. So if you're interested in knowing how many little puppers are in there, then come back. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. I'm glad my allergies retreated and I feel much better. Yes, have a great one. All right, everybody. See you tomorrow for Friday. Fantastic Friday. Have a good one. I'll see you then.